the star power here of Bo Nix. How have you seen him like sort of take over this city? Because it certainly feels like everybody is riding this Bo train.
I mean, I think the most impressive thing about Bo Nix is his maturity and his confidence. And like any player you ask, they will echo that over and over and over again. You know, he's I keep saying now he's a vet in rookie clothing.
Hello, and thank you for joining us here on Broncos and Bourbon. I'm your host, Phil Milani. It might be the bye week, but we still have a great show in store for you. Romi Bean, the main sports anchor at CBS Colorado here in Denver, joins us this week, and we get into all kinds of stuff involving this Broncos team. We talk about the big win over the Browns in a crazy game on Monday Night Football, how the defense gave up a ton but made those two huge plays, and hey, how the Broncos won despite maybe not the best performance from Bo Nix. He had that amazing throw to Marvin Mims, but outside of that, the Broncos still finding a way to put up a lot of points and get a big victory here. So we get into that. We talk about expectations after the bye week. Look, I think that this thing has evolved over the course of the season from let's see how Bo Nix does, let's get a winning season, let's make the playoffs, to now, okay, can this team actually make a run here in the playoffs? So we get into all of that. And then I think this week you'll enjoy the end part of our conversation here, as Romi is the first woman main sports anchor in the Denver market. We talk about how she handles some of the challenges that go along with working in a male-dominated industry, and how she's able to have so much success, and also the camaraderie of women who work in sports here in the Denver market is pretty cool. So I think that you'll really enjoy that part of the conversation. Our nightcap this week is Elijiah Craig Small Batch. I'll just admit, this is one of my favorite bourbons at this price point. It's sort of the bottle I go to every single time I'm at the liquor store. So we'll do a full review here coming up later on in the show. But with that, let's get to my conversation with Romi Bean, the main sports anchor at CBS Colorado. Romi, thank you so much for taking some time to catch up here. How's life? How has everything been going this year?
You know what? It's been great, but I miss seeing you around. I hope, does the audience know about PFM? I hope.
I don't know. We have not talked about PFM on here.
Well, everybody, as we all know, Peyton Manning was PFM. Phil Milani he was the other PFM, just so everybody knows, legend here. So I'm so happy to be here, Phil. And you know what? It's been a fun time seeing the tide turn a little bit in with the Broncos after a long time. It's been a really fun season.
Yeah, I mean, the city has been really fortunate, with football this year, with Broncos and then the Buffs doing so well too. And you've been like in the thick of it with both of those teams.
Yeah, it's been such a joy. Since I started this job after Super Bowl 50. So I've never really got to cover a true winning Broncos season. I know 2016 was a winning season, but, where you're really looking at playoffs and you're watching a team actually grow week by week. And so I feel like I've been waiting my whole career kind of for this. And then for CU, there's two sides to it. I'm a CU alum. So it's so cool seeing what Deion Sanders has brought to my alma mater, to the program, and to be part of watching CU really just shoot back into national relevance and win games, and a 9-win season this year. So it's been really fun on both fronts. It makes the long days so worth it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, your schedule must be insane, just covering both of those teams as much as you do. I was going to ask you, because you're covering the whole market here, it's been an interesting ride because the Broncos have struggled for so long, like you mentioned, and at the same time, like the Avs won a Stanley Cup, the Nuggets won an NBA championship, but it feels like there's something always still special when the Broncos are good.
Well, yeah, you know how we've always said, like, Denver's a football town. And it's one of those things that I think Denver's a great sports town. That's why it's really fun to cover sports here. And fans want the Rockies to be good too. That one Rocktober in the last, very long time. I guess
that's a pipe dream.
It's right. But even a little bit, right? The two little Rocktober stints we've had since 2007 have been, so fun. But, and the Avs and the Nuggets rides were just simply sensational, especially with the weight and the Nuggets being the first championship. But there's something about football and the fall and when the Broncos are doing well and victory Mondays and the city really does kind of light up. But you know what's crazy, Phil, is like we got to a point where it felt like, is there a whole generation that's going to grow up not knowing what it feels like for the Broncos to be like the heartbeat of this city in the fall? And it feels like we're getting back there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think that there's some like studies out there that say like kids like develop their fandom by age 10.
Yeah.
You know, and so because of the sustained like losing here by the Broncos, you are wondering, hey, dad or mom likes the Broncos, but maybe I'm going to pick a different team. Like you hope that didn't happen, but thankfully things are starting to change around. And you know, the other thing about it is the star power here of Bo Nix. How have you seen him like sort of take over this city, because it certainly feels like everybody is riding this Bo train?
I mean, I think the most impressive thing about Bo Nix is his maturity and his confidence. And like any player you ask, they will echo that over and over and over again. You know, he's I keep saying now he's a vet in rookie clothing. It's unbelievable how I think there were so many times during this season when things weren't going right during games, you were waiting for the meltdown. Because we've seen it so many times. You know, you were waiting to see, we saw it with, not to knock on anyone, but Drew Lock's first one to come to mind, right? You'd see it happen in the game. Like you saw it between the ears, the meltdown happening. Paxton Lynch, we certainly saw it. But we can go on with that list, on and on. And so I think a lot of fans, media, were kind of waiting for that moment. And it just never happened with Bo. He'd throw a pick, come out the next drive, and find a way to, if nothing else, get the team down and score a field goal. Or like last game against the Browns, one of my favorite parts of the game, throws a ball to Cortland Sutton wide open. Court never drops that ball, but he does. They go back to not quite the same route, but almost the same play, right? Court takes the route a little bit shorter, but he goes right back to him. And it's like the confidence in your players, the confidence he has on 3rd and 7 in his own end zone to throw a bomb to Marvin Mims, right? Like all of these things that you're like, what? This is what Broncos fans have been waiting for. But I think what's so impressive, Phil, is that he's doing this as a rookie. He's doing this 12, 13 weeks into his NFL career. And I think everybody had hope that Bo would develop into that kind of a player. But I don't know if anyone expected it to happen kind of this quickly. And the maturity and the way that he's like carrying this team with his leadership, it's very impressive to see from a first-year player.
It's almost like he's had like the reverse of a meltdown, because like we saw him have like that Ferris Bueller moment, and then like that exchange with Sean Payton. It seems like actually the opposite happened. Like ever since then, he's really taken off, and he's had that fire. He's got that fire about him that it feels like. Tell me what you think. Do you think like the guys, they love that competitive spirit from him?
Yeah, I remember after that game, right? And of course, everybody was comparing the yelling situation of Bo yelling at Sean the year before, Sean yelling at Russ. But for Bo to do that and straight up to have the cojones to do that as a rookie to Sean Payton, a very veteran head coach, it is kind of crazy, but awesome, right? And you could tell that Sean Payton loved it, right? Mm-hmm. He kind of wants somebody to push back on him a little bit. He wants his quarterback to push back on him a little bit. And goes back to what I was saying. Again, surprising for a rookie to do that so early into his career, but Bo is so confident in what he can do, in his leadership abilities. I think it does speak to his experience in college and his age. I mean, he's the same age as Zach Wilson, right? Yeah. And you can see what just a couple more years does for you. But I remember after that incident, like we asked everybody post-game in the locker room, and they loved it. Like one guy after another was like, yeah, he's just so competitive. We love his fiery spirit. Like, he really gathers us together. He wears the C on his chest, right? The captain patch. And sometimes you think every quarterback gets the captain, right? Every quarterback's named the captain. I think maybe that was okay. But Bo has shown that, no. His teammates voted him for that for a reason. This guy's really a leader. And it makes you excited for what the rest of the future could look like if this is just year one and he's showing the intangibles.
Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting to have like a young quarterback where you're winning, and then you still think that hey, the future is only going to be brighter.
Mm-hmm.
Really exciting situation here for the Broncos. And then even like on Monday night, aside from that Mims play, it seemed like maybe Bo didn't have his AA stuff, but the Broncos still beat a very hot Browns team. What do you think it says about the squad that they're able to, hey, Bo throws a couple of interceptions, they're able to overcome that and still win a big game on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, I think it shows how confident this group is and that they finally turned the corner. And when I say that, if you're a Broncos fan, you know what that means in the sense of there were so many years, the past few years, that we were talking about this was a team that found ways to lose games. They found ways to not win games, right? They would always fumble the bag at some point during the game. And you could tell, right? And there were times in recent years where literally a 10-point deficit, you're like, it's over. They're not going to come back. They can't score 16 points, right? All of these things. And with this team, right, they continue to prove that they're no longer like that. They have learned how to win. And I think it's so interesting because that's kind of that like beta question, where you're asking about, or like meta question when you're like asking, how do you guys learn how to not lose, right? I asked that in the locker room so many times in recent years, and guys were always honest about it. Like they would acknowledge, this team doesn't know how to win yet. Now this team I'm sorry about that noise.
No,
it's my
you're
cat.
fine.
Do you hear that?
Yeah.
She never plays with that, and she's mad that I'm not paying attention to her.
She wants some attention.
Get me attention. But this is a team that's truly figured out how to win, and that's pretty spectacular to see. And you can pinpoint times during games. Look at that Raiders game in Las Vegas. That was a game that at halftime last year, the year before, we know what happens. That's a silly loss. They found a way to grind one out and win it. This Browns game, years past, would have been a loss. They figured out how to win games even when things aren't going right. And that's the hallmark of a team that can do things in the NFL. You have to be able to know how to win, not know how to lose.
Yeah, that's like what the Chiefs always do. Like they're not blowing teams out, but they just always somehow find a way to win, and it kind of drives you crazy. But that's what good teams do.
Some voodoo magic going on there too.
Yeah, exactly.
The memes are memeing this season.
Yes, most definitely. Speaking of memes, I saw a great one that it was like Bo Nix and Zach Wilson. You mentioned Zach there, and it was like Bo looks like Zach's dad. Like his face, it looks just like so much older than Zach's does, and they look like they could be related.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
And Bo's haircut, like he's kind of got like that old fashioned haircut.
It's got like the '90s spikes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a great meme. You talk about the toughness the Broncos have there. Does that come from Sean Payton?
I think it really does. I think that's a hallmark of a Sean Payton team, and you noticed it starting back in training camp. Like he has tough training camps. They go 8 days straight. They'll go pads several days in a row. And training camps, of course, nowadays are a lot different than training camps of 10, 15 years ago when they had 2-a-days, when they didn't have a limit on how much they could be in pads. Now, the way training camps are built, you can make them really soft. Nathaniel Hackett made it really soft. We saw the softest training camp of all time, right? There's that. And then there's Sean Payton. I mean, he doesn't drive the guys into the ground by any means, but it's tough. And they're exhausted. And you talk to the guys and, they're like, you can tell they're in the dog days of camp and it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But that sets them up for success the rest of the season. I actually just had Marvin Mims on my show a couple days ago, and he pointed that out specifically because, Vegas had the Broncos at 5.5 wins. And I asked him, internally, I know you guys felt like you were going to exceed expectations. Obviously, you had that belief. But did you think you would be as much as you are right now, where you're like, you are, as long as you don't blow it, you're in the playoffs? And he said, absolutely. And he said for him, it started back in training camp. That was for him when he realized the fight of the team, how aggressively they were handling camp. And it all starts with Sean and the toughness that he makes sure his players have.
You mentioned the 5 wins. I gotta admit, like I did not see this coming,
Yeah.
Romy. Just because, like, if you look at the roster, like on offense, you have a rookie quarterback starting. You're not sure what to expect there. There's Cortland Sutton, and then you're like really not sure about all the rest of the weapons. The offensive line is like okay, and then on defense, PS2's there, but literally everybody else is not like a household name, and it's not like they went out and like got a like huge free agent names or anything like that. And yet it feels like guys are developing and like players have like really matured and grown into their role. Obviously, Bo has like exceeded all expectations, but it does feel like Sean Payton, for whatever reason, is pushing all the right buttons and he's getting the absolute most out of this team.
Yeah, 1,000%. Like I feel like obviously not internally, but everyone else, we kind of went into this season saying, let's see how Bo Nix does. Felt like this was going to be a development year for Bo Nix, building towards next season, even with the young rookie class, and you let Tim Patrick walk and you let some of these guys go, and it felt like it was Court and he was going to develop this wide receiver room, and then next year they'd be really ready to go. So I think that was kind of the expectation, and it was like, well, if they overachieve and win 8 or 9 games, that's going to be great, And sure, you could. There's fans that will be like extra hopeful, but if you really thought, yeah, they're going to be like really serious with 4 games to go and a real chance to clinch a playoff spot in just a few weeks, come on, like, you didn't think that, right?
Yeah.
But what has been impressive is a couple of things. I think, when you said the no household name, I think that's something that this team doesn't speak about this that much, but they kind of take that on their like a little chip on their shoulder. Earlier in the season, there were people calling them the no-name Broncos. And so these guys, in so many ways, they've got, nothing to lose and everything to prove. And they have really, really thrived on that. And now, of course, Zach Allen, Nik Bonitto, there's a ton of household names now. And I mean, Nik Bonitto's having a defensive player of the year kind of a season at this point. Riley Moss has really proven how valuable he is. And then the young guys, right? Devon Vele, Estime. I mean, the whole rookie class, really. So I just think what's been so impressive about the season is the rate of progress. I think we all thought we'd see this progress at some point, but to see everybody coming along as quickly as they are has been really impressive and fun to watch.
Yeah, the defense. I mean, Nik Bonitto, like some of the moves he was making, I was like, "Whoa, where did this come from?
Right?
Like, who's this guy?"
Yeah.
Like he had that spin move where he, hit Jameis's arm. The interception, even like for him to drop back in coverage and then like drop off his guy and go up and make that pick. I was like, this looks like Von Miller out there. I mean, I hate to use that, like compare him to like a future Hall of Famer, but like, he has really been awesome. Jonathan Cooper too, on the other side, like this defense, Romy, like it seems like every week is making game-changing plays.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting. Like the Browns game is was a funky game, right? Gave up over 500 yards. That's insane. But usually when you give up over 500 yards, you're not winning the football game, right? And the fact is that this defense, despite that, found a way to win. Why? They got 14 points as well, right? They got 3 picks. So this defense has a little bit of that clutch gene that you kind of have it or you don't, right? And you can go back to other points in the season. Brandon Jones in the Raiders game in Vegas, that pick turned the game on its head, changed the complete narrative. Pat Surtain with the pick 6 in the Raiders game at home. So this defense has a knack for making those game-changing plays. And I have thought from the beginning of this season, even when the offense was figuring it out, I was like, this is a playoff level defense. This defense is for real. And when the other test though was, I think we were waiting to see like, how do they respond when they get beat pretty bad, like against the Ravens? They bounced back in such a big way the next week. So they have that resiliency, that toughness that we spoke to. But there's just so many playmakers. And I think guys like Riley Moss, right? That guy can play ball. I don't know if anyone expected. You play across from Pat Surtain, you're going to get picked on all day long. We saw what it looked like without Riley Moss.
They missed him Monday.
Missed him a lot. So there's just playmakers all over the place. And the other thing I keep thinking about Phil is, and
I like PS2.
I feel like you'll understand this. So I keep thinking with like Bonitto and Coop, this is not taken away from their talents because they're so talented. But having a guy that is causing havoc up the middle, it reminds me, you look at like Super Bowl 50, right, where you had Malik Jackson up there, right, where you had Derek Wolfe, where you have guys causing that pressure. So Zach Allen, Malcolm Roach, what those guys are doing up front is allowing these guys to really succeed, and that's something that the Broncos did not have for a really long time. You have to have both. It just feels like the inside guys maybe don't get as much credit, but that's a huge piece.
Most definitely. I mean, like, speaking of Vaughn, like he talked about how much, Derek Wolfe allowed him to make those huge plays. Right. And even the names you're just mentioning there, Romy, it's like crazy, like how well everybody's playing. Like, like Zach Allen, people are like, oh, he was okay in Arizona, but like now he's like amazing. And so like the list just goes on and on. Like the moves that they've made, all of them have like ended up working out, and it's been awesome to see that whole unit really come together and play the way that they have. You talk about the expectations for the team and the changing, and like you kind of said with Marvin Mims, like as long as they don't blow it, they should be in the playoffs here down the stretch. How for real is this team? Like, I saw Nate Jackson, our friend, he tweeted, hey, the Broncos could win the Super Bowl. I was like, what? But like, what is possible for this team this year?
I mean, look, you hate to put limits on them. The Super Bowl feels like a lot, right? Just because it feels like you have to. It feels like there's a lot of steps you got to get through. Even look at a team like the Lions or the Ravens who've been clawing to get there. It's so hard to get there, and it almost feels the Bills, right? You gotta fail a few times. It feels like. I think first things first. You can't put over expectations. Get to the playoffs, man. This team has not been to the playoffs since Super Bowl 50. That's insanity. Just break through that barrier. And that's not just realistic. Unless there's just
it should happen.
An epic meltdown, it should happen. And this team has proven that they are not the epic meltdown types. So we should absolutely expect them to make the postseason. I think a few weeks ago, a lot of people were like, just make the playoffs. You get bounced in the first round, that's cool. Like, get to the wild card. But now you look at this team as they get better each week. I mean, who says they can't make a run? I don't want to put any limits on this team. I do think that they have a championship type of defense. Bo Nix continues to get better each week. I mean, this team is really solid. Special teams has been vastly improved in all three facets. They absolutely have a playoff contending team. You know what? It's like I said, why would I put a limit on them? Hey, maybe they can get to the Super Bowl. But a lot of times it feels like, you got to fail a few times. Even look at like the 2014 Broncos, right? It's so hard to get to the Super Bowl. And it feels like in a lot of times, the 96 Broncos, you got to fail, and it's like building those blocks. So am I going to say, no, they're not going to make it? No. Why would I do that? What kind of person am I?
You don't want to say that.
No, I mean, hey, look, why not? Why not? It's as they say, when you get to the playoffs, it's a whole new ballgame. But I just think that it's really exciting that this is a team that I look at right now as saying they're playoff bound this year. And what's exciting is they're getting the Broncos back to the winning ways. The Broncos we know, the expectations of this franchise to make the playoffs every year, to win 6 or 7 home games. Right? Check those off. And I feel like they're doing that.
Yeah, and they're exciting. They're like a fun team to watch, and they're playing like that Browns game was crazy, and they're fun to watch. And I also think like teams that make runs in the playoffs, they've got like a little bit of magic to them. Things kind of like have to work out well, and like they got to get some lucky bounces here and there. Even that Super Bowl 50 team had plenty of things go their way, and it feels like this Broncos team has a little bit of magic. So, there's like some charm to this team. And so, we'll see what happens, but it does feel like it will be hard for them to get over the Chargers and Ravens in the standings. And so that means that first game, you're like going to Buffalo or you're going to Kansas City, and that does seem like a hard.
What game we all want to see, though, right? We want to see them go to
Pittsburgh game.
Right?
Yes, of course.
It's
been crazy seeing Russ do what he's done. I mean, the way he's playing with them and, the Broncos are paying him to do it. It is a little crazy.
When he went there, I said, I feel like if there's one coach that's going to really get the most out of Russ, it's Mike Tomlin. And that speaks, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season.
It is
process
amazing.
that. Just process that. But even so, I didn't expect this version of Russ. I thought that Tomlin was going to have Russ kind of competing, getting that team to the playoffs, but not doing this. It's just crazy. And I don't know. I think Broncos fans certainly feel some kind of way about it, but I think what eases that blow is you look at what Sean Payton and Bo Nix are doing, and you say, okay, but this is a 10-year plan now. This is, even if Russ worked out, that would have been a couple-year plan. So I think that helps soften the blow about, when you see what Sean and Bo are building.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that, like, more than anything, that the right situation and the right, like, people around you makes all the difference in the world. Like, Russ was just, like, never a Sean Payton guy, but Bo obviously is. Like, they just work better together. And, Russ is just finding success there. And, like, hey, good for him. Like, a fresh start. I like seeing people like Jerry Jeudy, like, I like seeing these guys have the success, even though it's not with Denver, just because you get to know them over time and stuff. But like you said, the fact that the Broncos are playing so well is easing that blow.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if they weren't, right, and then you're paying $38 million to a guy that's leading a team to the playoffs, then it don't feel good. But I think when you talk to other players too, like even on the team, like they want to see Russ do well. They just not against the Broncos, but there's no hard feelings, I think, among players, and I think that's something that the league has changed so much, right? It used to be you always wanted a guy to stay his whole career, and if he left, you're like, oh, how dare you? But it's just not that NFL anymore at all. Guys leave all the time, and I think you see how players interact with each other, right? They adore each other. They want each other to be successful. So I guess it just kind of is what it is. Like when they say all we can focus on is ourselves, it's the truth.
Yeah, it was close seeing like Jerry with Cortland and like PS2 after the game. But what I also appreciated was that he was really honest about everything like the whole week.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I want to go back there, whoop him in. Like, even on like Instagram, like he was saying, I left him something, to remember and all this stuff. Like, that's awesome. That's what sports is about, in my mind. So,
what's funny is like I think some people were upset about it. And then Court was asked about it and he just laughed. He's like, that sounds like my guy. Like,
yeah.
You're supposed to talk the talk,
that was real. That was real. Yeah, exactly. Last one on the Broncos, and then I want to talk about you for a little bit here. The bye week is coming really late. Obviously, we're into December. It's sort of crazy that you can have your bye week this late. But is this a good time for the Broncos so that they can sort of just like catch their breath and get healthy a little bit here, or is it like, hey, they were on a roll here, like you kind of want to keep it going?
Yeah, I kind of lean towards the former point because I remember at the beginning of the season, I was like, the bye week is when? Week 14 or whatever it is? Like, that's insane. What? And then my second thought was, well, if they do make a playoff run, that's not bad because then you get a little break before what could be. So you got 4 more weeks of the regular season and then how many more weeks after that, right? It kind of is coming at the perfect time. So I think that it's been coming at a great time. I think that these guys know what's on tap next. Huge game against the Colts next, right? Because that one really solidifies. You drop that one, it changes really a lot of the perspective. And I think they know that. And I think that this team has been crazy healthy. They're like last year as well. But I think this is a good time. Like Zach Allen's had a couple bang-ups, Riley Moss. So for all these guys to get a little bit of a rest, I think is huge right now. So I actually do think it's coming at a great time. I don't think it's going to mess with the flow because I feel like as Broncos fans, as Broncos media, as, we have a lot of scar tissue from the last 8 years, right? Where all of these situations, you've seen the team just totally blow it, right? These close games, these shootouts, coming back after a bye week. But to this point this season, this team has passed every single one of those tests. So I feel like I have no reason to not believe that they're going to come out and they're going to take care of business and they're going to do their job, beat the Colts and move forward and clinch that spot in a couple weeks. So I think it's good timing.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to make a playoff run, this is a great time to have a bye week. So you're just sort of geared up and ready to go. And they even have that Thursday night game too. So that's like another little break coming up. So awesome to see that. Okay, Romy, I want to talk a little bit about you here. We call this segment Phil's Five.
Ooh.
Phil's Five. Yeah. Okay.
Am I
so
supposed to answer it fast? Because as you can tell,
well,
I have verbal diarrhea.
not rapid, but like it's like you can get into it a little bit. Who's your favorite athlete growing up?
Growing up. Oh, I got it. This is hard to pick one. I mean, my favorite team growing up was the Super Bowl 32, Super Bowl 33 teams. It's kind of a hard tie between Terrell Davis and Shannon Sharp. Like Shannon Sharp's personality and of course his play, like I just thought, man, that's the coolest guy on planet Earth, right? And then I love Terrell Davis. I love how he played, and for some reason, like I found it so endearing that he had braces. Remember when TD had braces? But both of them, TD and Shannon Sharp, were my favorite players growing up.
And when you win the Super Bowl, you're like kind of like, okay, these guys did it, and I totally get it.
I actually once saw Shannon Sharp when I was a little kid in a restaurant. It's the only time I've ever asked anybody for an autograph. I was like 7, and I saw him, or maybe 10, I don't know. And this is a funny story. So he was there, and this is like so out of pocket. Like I would never do this anymore, but I like walked up to his table, and I was like, "Can I get your autograph?" And he was so nice. Yeah. And then I was like, "Can I get it for my brother too?" And he looks over and he sees my brother at the table. My brother's older, and he's like, he's going to have to come up here and ask him himself if he wants it. So
did he come over?
He did come over.
Oh, okay, good.
And he was so nice. But don't approach athletes at tables. Unless you're a cute kid. I feel like they don't mind with kids.
Exactly. They like kids, yeah. And it's funny how like one moment like that can just change your whole perspective on a guy.
Yeah.
You know, like that. I think that's a hard thing about being an athlete is that like every moment like that, you know, can really change the perspective about you. So that's a cool story. I like that. Who was your favorite reporter growing up? Like, did you have somebody who was like maybe a mentor to you or somebody that you just sort of idolized growing up?
Yeah, you know what? Vic Lombardi. I used to watch Vic Lombardi every night at 10:22, whatever time it was, whatever my parents were watching. I made them change the channel. I feel like I grew up watching Vic. And I actually like didn't go to journalism school. Like I always had a passion for this, but I took a really weird route. But I remember like just watching Vic and being, wow, I wish I could do that. But Vic, what I've always loved about Vic is he's always been so authentically himself. There is one Vic Lombardi in this world. He's so funny and he's not afraid to do anything. Like I'm like, I wish I had the gall to do some of the stuff that he does. But he's just, I like idolized Vic growing up. So it's weird that in a way he's a colleague now.
Yeah, I mean, and you're at CBS. I mean, that's so awesome. And I think that a lot of us, I'm the same way. Like growing up in Denver, he's like been sort of like that guy for like this whole generation. I think. So that really cool to hear that. Do you have a memorable interview that you've had so far in your career that like sort of sticks out? I mean, I know you talk to Prime, every week this season here, but like, has there been a moment where you're like, well, that was crazy. I can't believe that happened, or like something cool that happened, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to take the easy way out, but it really is doing the show with Coach Prime has been an absolute unbelievable gift. It's been incredible. It's been challenging. It's been fun. It's been rewarding. I remember when I found out that I was going to be sitting down with Coach Prime, Deion Sanders once a week, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And that first show, I was so nervous. I was just sweating bullets, like, but to have that opportunity one-on-one with someone like that, with a personality like that, has been incredible. And it is something I will absolutely take with me for the rest of my life. And then I feel like there are other ones I got to sit back and think, but that's the predominant one right now. Even I go up there every week and I just feel truly blessed that I get that opportunity week after week. And I don't know how long it will last. And so I really soak it up because it's been amazing for me.
It's so interesting to see how like national media talks about him versus like local media, and like it seems like he's so polarizing, But like I'm a CU alum too, so like I've been like really riding the wave here, and it's been so cool to see like our school in the national spotlight and playing all these national games, and it's like it's cool to hear you talk about him in such a positive way, Whereas I feel like so many people have like this mixed perception about who he really is.
Polarizing is such a good way to say it. It's that people either adore him or they hate him, and it's such a waste of energy to hate this man because he's an
Yeah.
incredible man. I will tell you that. His The one thing that really always stands out to me is his care factor. Like his care factor is through the roof. The way he genuinely cares about his players, about their success on and off the field, and just about people around him, whoever he interacts with, right? Like doing the show with him, he could walk in there, sit down, not talk to me, get up and leave, right? He doesn't, who am I? He doesn't owe me any of his time. And he takes that time and we have conversations, and he truly does care about everyone that he's around and about making a difference. And so he's fun, he's funny, but he's a very, very, very good person too, as well. And I think people who are fans see that, and it's awesome. And if you choose to ignore that, you know what? You're lost.
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't know how long it's gonna last, so like let's just enjoy this. So, do you have a favorite player you like to cover right now?
Oh gosh, that's tough. Do I have to pick one?
You could do two, maybe. You could hedge a little, I guess.
This I would say this past couple of years has been fun because there's been such a turnover of Broncos players. So felt like we got so comfortable, kind of knowing all these guys, and now it's a new team in a lot of ways. Marvin Mims Jr. is one of my favorite guys to cover. I want to know what Marvin's IQ is because I think this guy is like immensely smart.
Wow.
He's so smart. He's so chill. I mean, I was talking to him about you realize like how much is on his plate on game day because he's in special teams. He says he's in special teams meetings. Then he goes to the wide receiver meetings. Then he goes to the running back meetings. About all that he's got to know. And Jonathan Cooper. I think Jonathan Cooper is just a grade A human being. He's so passionate. He gets so angry when they lose. But he's honest with you and he'll shoot you straight about anything. So I'd say those are my top two right now.
Oh, most definitely. Jonathan Cooper is awesome. So,
Oh, man.
Yeah, he's such a cool guy. Okay, and then the last one for this segment here is there an event that you hope to cover that you haven't had the chance to do it yet?
Ooh, okay. Let me think.
It's a hard one.
That is a hard one. I was really blessed to sort of cover the Super Bowl last year. I would love to cover it with like a team that I actually cover in it. Obviously the NBA and NHL championships I can check off my list. I am very excited in a couple weeks to be covering the Heisman. I never thought I would be going to New York to cover someone who better win the Heisman, should win the Heisman. Travis Hunter should be holding that hardware at the end of the day. So I am nervous and excited and thrilled and have no idea what that's going to look like, but I'm really, really, really looking forward to that. That's going to be, I think, a hallmark moment, all-time moment. And then trying to think if there's one since I am getting to that. What's like far away?
Maybe a different sport, like maybe like something like out there that you're like, I don't know when it'll happen, but maybe, like it could happen.
I mean, because it's such a pipe dream, I'd love to cover a World Series, but I think that would have to be in a different city. Right? But no, I mean, like October baseball is just sensational.
Yeah.
That would be really, really special to cover because it just seems like, yeah.
Yeah. And you're around I think that talking to guys who cover baseball, like the relationship with the players is so different just because they play every single day. You're in that clubhouse every single day.
Yeah.
That to see them like make a run like that, I think it is special. Like hearing people talk about covering World Series, like it's just sort of a magical ride.
Yeah.
So I have heard that. Okay, good. Those are some good answers there.
I should have said
that.
like bowling or something.
Pete Weber.
International
Yeah,
bowling.
exactly. Okay, and then the last part here before I let you go, I've taken up so much of your time. I want to talk about your career a little bit here. We usually wrap up with some career advice, but I did want to ask you, like you being the first woman main sports anchor in this market, how do you approach that?
Uh, it's been it's been incredible. I think it's been for me an immense responsibility because the way I look at it is it's not about me. I'm going to take a line from Jenny Kavnar when she got the A's play-by-play job and made history there, and I heard her say, "I'm the first but not the last." And I think that's so poignant, and that's truly words that I live by because it's one of those things that it really doesn't have anything to do with me. I think I'm very proud of the work that I put in and the opportunity I was given and making the most of that opportunity. It's important for me to feel like I proved my bosses right with, the decision and the gamble that they took. But more so, it's for every other girl and woman that's going to be in sports, and we're all are very much a sorority in our own right. And it feels like if I do something egregious or I blow that hurts the chances of someone else. And the way I look at it is that it's about so much more than me. It's about doing right so that it's not even a question the next time a girl comes up. The question of, ooh, is this going to be okay? Is the audience ready? It's not even a question because they look at everyone who's come before. And so that's really how I approach it. And I just want to make sure that, excuse me, I
We've been talking a long time.
no, and I just want to make sure that what I do is it falls in line with the incredible women that have broken down the doors before me. And so that all the ones that come after me do even greater things and way bigger things. And, I don't hurt them. I help them.
And you mentioned Denver being such a close sports market. It does seem like there's a lot of really, amazing women covering sports who, like Jenny, like coming from this market or still in this market. And I've seen you paying it forward and everything. And like, it's been cool seeing, like, I know Susie Wargin, like, gathers, the group together. What is that camaraderie like when you guys all get together?
Yeah, it's amazing. I feel like so much credit to Susie Wargin too. She's just been incredible. She's created a few events now where it's really women of all ages. She's like our mama bear. But it's so important, I think, that especially for younger women coming up to know that there is this sisterhood and that we do support each other and that you're there to help elevate one another. And it's a really unique bond and it's really fun. You can talk about things that kind of you only go through as women, but you really understand it. And to have this group that really elevates each other, it's been so nice. It's something that, kind of a team in a sense, in its own way. And maybe you wouldn't expect it, right? You assume everybody to be competitors, but we've developed this amazing community where I think it's about, we're all here to lift each other up. There is room for everybody at the table. And so it's really special. It's special to feel like, when I look at women in sports, we've come so far. Look at some of these women who did what they were doing, in the 90s and the 80s and the Marcia Nevilles, right? And really the Amy Trasks of this world, like really, really breaking down doors. I don't feel like I'm necessarily breaking down doors, but I feel like we're at the part where we are making sure that we're, leading the way to whatever's next, bigger, better. And it's really fun to have a community that does that together.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, you are the first in this market. I mean, that's really quite an accomplishment. And like, you should really own that, I feel like. And you do. And it's awesome to see that. Have there, as far as everything's come in the sports world, are there still so many challenges that you have to encounter every single day, though? Like anything you feel comfortable you could share?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's gotten so much better since I started, right? I think that every day there's more and more kind of women breaking through. And I think that there are challenges and there will always be challenges as women in a male dominated field. It is what it is. But I think one, it's how you approach it. And two, it's having a community that you can talk to about it and that you can talk through your problems about that. And, other like-minded women who understand and can help you kind of, get through. get through it and move forward. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about helping the next generation, and why I created Girls in the Game, so that they know that there are so many women working in so many facets of sports, but we all are here to support each other. Because at the end of the day, you are going to face, it's different for me in a locker room than it is for men, right? It just is. But it's repetition, it's getting used to it, and it's little things like building that rapport and building the respect. And I'm very blessed to work with really, really incredible players, so I've never had any sort of an issue, because they're great. They treat me as a reporter, not as a female reporter, which is fantastic. Yeah. But I think a lot of that is, you got to earn it. You got to let the work speak for itself. And the hardest thing I will say is patience. I remember when I started and I just wanted to be treated like everybody else, and you got to earn your keep. You got to show that you're there for the right reasons, and you got to let your work speak for itself. And that just takes time, Yeah. But it's very rewarding when you see that all start to pay off.
And it's been awesome seeing just all the work that you do, and how busy you are, and the way you're able to manage everything. And you do the Monday night stuff with the players, you do the prime thing. I mean, it's a lot to handle, and it's been awesome seeing, how you've been able to tackle that and everything. So, congratulations. I mean, just on everything that you've done. Do you have any, not just for any women starting out, but just in general, some career advice about where the sports media world is heading, and maybe a young journalist out there, what would you say is crucial to be able to survive in this business?
Yeah, one thing I would say is don't be afraid, right? Like I told you earlier, I didn't go to journalism school. I got into business school, and I thought, well, that's a great, smart option. But if this is something that you want to pursue and you're not sure, don't be afraid. Go for it. First and foremost, get after it. And also, don't ever feel like it's too late. I feel like I got into it really late, right? In my late 20s is when I started. And so, but if you want it, you can find a way. I think the other thing too is we're at such an interesting time with sports media, where there's so many different avenues. There's so many different outlets. There's digital, there's linear television. There's just so many more options that it's, find a way to create your own niche. If it's a podcast, whatever it is, you can start doing this without actually even having an official job yet, right? That's what I tell a lot of people, post on your social media, make a podcast, anything, because then you're getting those reps, and somebody somewhere is maybe watching. You never know who's watching, right? And so I think those are big things. Of course, everybody always says networking. I feel like I'm not a great networker, to be honest, but don't be afraid to reach out to people, because you never know, who would be willing to help. And that is one thing I've learned. People really want to help in this business. So don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, is that everybody's been in another person's shoes at some point in their career. And even the top people, I've always found are just so nice and willing to pay it back. So great advice there. You mentioned all these different avenues. I think that one of the areas that you really are just an amazing communicator is on social media. How much of a part of, do you feel like that is a huge part of what you do, and your role is communicating through all your different social media accounts?
Yeah. Well, thank you. That really means a lot, because I put a lot of work into it, and it's hard because it's just me, right? I don't have anybody helping me with it, but it feels like I got to a point a couple of years ago where I just felt like a lot of people my age, I don't feel like they're watching local television, right? I felt like people were like, I've never actually seen you. I've never actually seen you. And I was like, man, this is really hard, because I feel like I put so much work into what goes on TV, but the audience that can see it is certainly not as big as I would like, right? And if you're out of market, you can't see it. And so I've been trying to find ways, how can I reach a bigger audience, create a bigger community, of meaningful content. And so it's a lot of, failure. And a lot of times I get a little insecure. Should I post this? Should I not? I don't know. But it's been really rewarding. You meet fans of the teams that you cover from all over the world, and there's no other way that they can find you. But it's also incredible that you can communicate with them in that way, and that you really can, make friends around the world. And so for me, that's how it started, feeling like, local television had it's a limited reach. And so how can I reach more people? So that's kind of something I've been passionate about and trying to, but it gets exhausting. I was like, wish I could have
Yes.
someone do this for me, but it's also rewarding, to have felt like I've created or starting to create a community there on the internet.
Yeah, that's a good way to talk community. That's something like even with this podcast, like there's just sort of a sense of like
Mhm.
people who tune in often and like they follow you on social media and like your personality really comes through too. And so they feel like they kind of get to know you. So it's been awesome seeing that. So anyway, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate catching up here and getting your thoughts on the Broncos, thoughts on your career and the business in general. So like this has been awesome. So thank you so much for your time, Romy.
This has been such a treat. PFM! I've been waiting. I've
Yeah.
been watching. I love what you're doing. It's been so fun. You've had
Oh,
some
thank
awesome guys. I love when you
you.
had Keeb and TJ on. So I feel
Thank
honored
you.
to be a guest on the show.
Oh no, the honor is all on this side. So thank you very much, and congratulations on all your success. And I really look forward to all the what lies ahead for you. So congratulations, and I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, my friend. That means a lot.
My thanks to Romy for spending some time catching up here on the show. Romy, one of my favorite people to work in the media with. And it's just awesome to see how she's grown so much and then all of the awesome opportunities that have come her way, including the Coach Prime show and then the show she does every Monday with a player interview out at a bar. So very cool to see all of that and really enjoyed my conversation there with Romi Bean. And, with this Broncos team, I mean, I think that the way that they've been playing and the fact that they played the Chiefs so closely a few weeks ago, it makes you feel like, hey, anything is really possible for this team. I will say going on the road and trying to beat like a Buffalo, going on the road and maybe it'll be Pittsburgh. That would be insane. That would be a tough task. But I think that this Broncos team has shown that they're headstrong, they're tough, and they're resilient. So they would be able to go out there and hopefully not lay a dud. I mean, really, the only time that's happened this year is that Ravens game, and maybe they learned from that. So I think that it'll be interesting to see how they come out of this bye week, just because when a team is rolling, it's nice to have that rhythm and just, hey, every week, this boom, boom game, boom, boom game. And so this does disrupt that. Guys are going to get away. They're going to relax a little bit here, which obviously is well-deserved. They've been going really hard since training camp, since the end of July, really. So a good time to rest and recharge the batteries, but you just hope that it doesn't really disrupt this rhythm and the flow that they've got going. But I do think it'll give them a chance to, heal up as much as you can at this point in the season and look ahead to a huge 4-game stretch coming up after the bye week. So let's get to my review here, our bourbon review. And this week it is one of my favorites. It's Elijiah Craig Small Batch. And this is just sort of one of my favorite bourbons. It says Elijiah Craig, the father of bourbon, the first to oak char barrels. It's 94 proof, so you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. Elijiah Craig, made by Heaven Hill, which is just an outstanding distillery these days. And a nice coppery color here on this one. You can look up their mash bill. It's 78% corn, 12% barley, and 10% rye. So this, I just think that for your bang for your buck, this is one of the best bourbons that you can go to, especially if you kind of like to drink your bourbon just like on the rocks, which is sort of how I do it, versus like, an old fashioned or making a cocktail or something. This is sort of my bourbon to go to. So let's crack this bad boy open. Put this into my rocks class here. I would normally drink this with the rocks. I have not done that this week, but for this tasting. But this is Elijiah Craig Small Batch, and the nose right off the bat, you're getting a lot of caramel, some vanilla, maybe like a little bit of a nut, little nutty maybe. You can smell that 94 proof too coming through there. So it's always so good. First taste, vanilla, and then some of that oak taste. Elijiah Craig Small Batch used to have a 12-year age statement. They've removed that. I think now, like almost 10 years ago, they removed that. But you could definitely taste some of that oakiness. It's just that cinnamon. I think you get a good cinnamon finish, an oak finish. It's not like overly complex, but like the finish stays with you. It's satisfying. It's long, and that's just sort of like that's the taste that I'm looking for in a bourbon. That's like it's got a high enough proof. It's got a nice lasting finish that doesn't like it's not overly burning here, but it is nice that it kind of lasts, and there's a little bit of heat, a nice heat there that comes with it. So that's a nice one. That's just it's one of my favorite barrels. Elijiah Craig and Heaven Hill make some outstanding bourbons. Some of the barrel proof Elijiah Craigs are winning like best bourbons of the year awards, and the price certainly goes along with that. But if you're looking for a bourbon that's like $30 or less, this is outstanding. And to tell you what, I normally don't buy the small bottle here like this. I normally go to Costco and get the big boy, and you can get that for just over $40, which is amazing. So Elijiah Craig, that's one of my favorite bourbons. Let me know if you like that. Let me know if you have another one that you want me to review. I think next week we're going to do Woodford Reserve, another sort of classic bourbon, another one that's in that 30, maybe it's just over $30, and it's readily available for everybody. So that'll be next week. But then after that, let me know what you want. Maybe if you have some holiday barrels that you'd like, or holiday bourbons that you'd like me to review. I think maybe I'll try and do a brandy right before Christmas. So let me know what you think, and let me know if you like Elijiah Craig, because it is one of my favorites. So as always, drink responsibly, please. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for this week's show. Once again, my thanks to Romi for joining us. I had a lot of fun with that conversation. We went a long time, and I think we were just both having a great conversation there. So hopefully you enjoyed it as well. If you did, please like and subscribe as we build the podcast, build this community, and continue to grow. A like and a subscribe in the comments. I did read a lot of the comments over Thanksgiving. Some of you were really, really touching there with some of your comments, and that did mean a lot to me. You know, I am thankful for all of you guys. I hope that you had a great Thanksgiving with your friends and family, and I'm thankful for this community and this podcast, and a chance to be able to talk Broncos this way and connect with my friends as we chat about the Broncos. So it's been awesome, and I really appreciate all of you. So leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and I like to respond to a lot of them, so I will certainly try to do that. All right, that's going to do it for this week here on Broncos and Bourbon. I'm your host, Phil Milani.